welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. There are notable changes happening in the office. Some of my very dearly loved equipment of the past over half a decade has given up the ghost. There are replacements on the way. There are stopgaps in place. It should look almost entirely different next week. Hopefully. When one is playing a role-playing game, when one has a character that they are playing in a role-playing game, a player character as it were, one of the consequences that player character faces is death. Characters die. And, well, they certainly can. There are a very tiny percentage of characters that can be designed in such a way as to be effectively immortal or unkillable. I consider these characters very boring, and I have never seen one that I could not affect in such a way that if I could not kill it, I could make it wish it was dead. That being the case. Game masters have a number of different views on how to handle the concept of character death. There's the combative game master who believes it is their job to kill the player characters. This game isn't over until everyone at the table is dead. There's the meat grinder game master. Everyone grab a stack of character sheets, and we're going to be going through these guys like popcorn tonight, so start rolling. That can be a lot of fun. In the right game, with the right understanding going into it, that can be a lot of fun. First level D&D characters or paranoia characters, yeah, 250, 500, 750 point GURPS characters, not so much. Nah, it's too much work. Other game masters, myself included, do not believe it is our job to kill player characters. It is a consequence of our arbitration of events and consequences in the game that player characters might die. But flat out killing them, this is a cooperative exercise. We are trying to tell a story. In stories, characters die for any number of reasons. As an author, I use the death of characters in a story to manipulate emotion or drive the plot or motivate characters or anti-motivate characters. It's super useful in a storytelling capacity. Since we are engaging in a storytelling exercise in a role-playing game, death can serve the same purposes. This is on my mind because a character died in my Wednesday night D&D game. And as I have mentioned before, it wasn't my fault. It was not my fault. First level characters having a first level-ish fight. I believe the challenge rating is just a suggestion. I don't like to unbalance fights, but if people see a big fight that they want to get into and don't assess whether they can handle that, that's on the characters. I try not to throw anything too difficult. There was a villain that they were not meant to engage, and rather than kill it, they successfully drove it off, and that was wonderful. The fight took place in a drow spy camp in the middle of a forest. The drow raiding party was a group of trainees under the command of a phased rider. Another game master from the games at the Game Chest just used that phrase once, kind of held it over our heads like a threat, and I became so enamored with the concept that I brought one into my game. Thanks, Brian. So they fought off the injured drow scouts, and they drove off the phased rider. It will be back. It's a recurring villain. And one of the tactics they used in this fight is there was a tiefling warlock in the group who knew the cantrip bonfire. And, well, they're a half-blind drow running around the sunlight. Well, if they're running in a particular direction, you put a bonfire in front of them. They run into that. They catch on fire. They're not a problem anymore. He did that 5 times. You create 5 foot by 5 foot bonfires in the middle of this fight. And did I mention they're in a forest? So they finish the fight, and they notice it's a little smoky, and yeah, they're in the middle of a bonfire because he had effectively cast the bonfire, the middle of a forest fire, because he had cast the bonfires all around this encampment in the center of the tent. It was in flames. Had they checked to see if the wood was dry? No. Did they ask any questions about how heavy the density of the forest was? No. Just through bonfire. Okay, that. There was a prisoner they were trying to save. Whoever tried to get the prisoner out was going to be at disadvantage on their survival check to walk out through a bonfire. It was like a DC 10. It wasn't super hard. Of course, this being that particular first level party that didn't know how to spend a night out in the open, none of them had the survival skill. None of them are proficient in survival. Everyone makes the check. It was miraculous, except the barbarian. With the prisoner on his shoulders, walking out of the bonfire, or the forest fire, with 0 ranks in survival. He was rolling at disadvantage. Rolled 2 die 20, take the worst of the 2 rolls. He rolled 2 critical failures. It was as bad as it could possibly be. The consequence of that was he was on fire. I was assessing 2 die 8 fire damage if they missed that roll. And because he critically failed, I doubled the damage dice. 4 die 8, down. Burning to death, done in 2 turns. Rest of the party members stand around for a turn. Yeah, okay, I'm going to make a try to go in. They knew that if they went in, they could get into him, but it's going to be a survivor roll at disadvantage to get back out. The Tiefling Warlock goes in, and the Elven Ranger go in. The Elven Ranger fails a check, can't stay in, takes damage, leaves. The Tiefling Warlock goes in. Tiefling, fire resistant, half damage from that fire. Still, blows the roll, takes enough damage that they cannot take it again, trying to get him out. They tried. But nah. The Barbarian and his prisoner. The Barbarian only lasted so long because they had to burn through the prisoner first. And then they were both just done. It was a appropriate death. First level, and they got into a bad situation. The fight was survivable. The forest fire, as a result, was not. It was not a time to try and be tricky or brave or heroic. It was a time to get the hell out. But player characters will try to be tricky, brave, and heroic all at the same time, and get disadvantage on a roll, and occasionally crit fumble. Twice. Player, Josh, took it in stride, sat down, and started rolling up his next character, as a good D&D player does. He has never had a first-level D&D character that did not die in the first or second session. And I could sit back and go, you realize this wasn't my fault. And it wasn't. It totally wasn't my fault. I did not create the circumstances that killed that particular player character. Another player character did. To the point where Wayne, the player of the Tiefling Warlock, said, okay, can we get experience for him? And at that moment, that was kind of what the break the group needed. There's always a bit of an emotional shock when there's a death at the party. Especially, I don't kill player characters if I can help it. I'll give everyone as many ways out of it as I possibly can. I like to see story arcs evolve. I like to see people get involved in their characters and take them on through arcs and campaigns and watch them develop. It's fun. It's what you do it for, to get levels and get bonuses and see where the character goes. When they die, and it's jarring. And when Wayne asked for the XP, everything was okay and we were moving on. I gave it to him. They didn't just get 300 points for that night. They got 340, splitting up the 200 for a challenge rating 1, first level character, amongst the 5 of them. 340 XP. They all went to second level. Even Josh's new character is going to come in at second level with that 340 XP because it seemed just to me to give him the XP for his former dead character. He made a druid who's going to be very upset that there was a forest fire used to beat a half-dead drow scouting party. Consequences. Try and fight an enemy that is over you. You might win. You might win, and that's going to be spectacular. You might lose. You're going to die. Consequence. You create a situation that is more dangerous than the one you walked into. You might die from that. Consequence. I don't have to try and kill player characters. The main reason I don't have to try and kill player characters is because player characters spend a tremendous amount of their time trying to kill themselves, whether you know it or not. I play player characters that one of the phrases I use most often is I have a bad idea. I play player characters who take stupid chances, because why not? I can play it safe every day, sitting here in my chair writing at my computer. I get behind the wheel of a player character. I do not want to roleplay sitting safe in a chair typing at a computer. I want to swing from chandeliers and kick dragons and do stupid stuff because that's where I'm going to get the rush. Taking big chances. Big risks, big rewards. Big consequences. You could die. Sometimes death isn't the worst consequence you can do. Sometimes death is the beginning of an adventure. Those are good games. As with when you are writing fiction, a death of a player character in a role-playing game can drive the plot. It can be used to point up how risky or how dangerous something is. It can be used to demonstrate, okay, this is a world with actual consequences. You have seen one of your party members go down. You might want to be careful of those consequences. You might want to be twice as careful if you create them yourselves. Granted, getting experience for the party member that you just accidentally killed with bonfires might not be that much of a teachable moment, but still, there's a lesson there. Whether it is learned or not, that's not up to me. I taught it. I'll kill NPCs at the drop of a hat. Killed like 2 of them yesterday in my patrons online game. I run an online game for my patrons. Nudge, nudge. Because death of associated characters and surrounding characters can be informational, educational. It can motivate characters. It can give them a reason for vengeance, or for trying to understand why that character died, or what circumstances brought that about. It can lead them to wanting to protect others from having to go through the same thing. No one else is going to die like this on my watch. If they can save that player, that non-player character, that's awesome too. You know, they see them in trouble and they take action to try and prevent it. That's Awesome. I have no problem. I was planning for this person to die, but you guys want to put in the effort? Okay, yeah, you save them. And the story can go in an entirely different way. There are no rails. There are ideas, and I will flow with those because if player characters want to put in that effort, want to show that dedication, no, I'm a self-sacrificing individual who would not let someone die like that. I'm going to do something. That's defining for that character. That's fine. They ignore warning signs that character is going to die and turn around and find out that they have passed away. That should maybe I should have been a little more attentive. Did I ask the right questions? What could I have done differently there? Or, okay, I guess we get another one. You learn about a player character by how they handle death. An NPC, another PC, sometimes you learn about them by how they handle their own death. Whether it is an impending situation or it is an actuality, they have been killed. In role-playing games, as with comic books and a lot of fiction, you can come back from being dead. In Victory, you can even rarely come back from the state of dead as hell, at which point there's no longer even a recognizable corpse. But, there's magic and stuff. Things can happen. Death is motivational and extremely inspirational. It's revealing. We have a close relationship with death in our everyday lives. I have lost people in my life, more than I like to think about. Grandparents, a parent, friends, people I grew up with in high school or after I moved out here and got involved in the gaming scene in Southern California. People that I thought were just always going to be around, close to my age, or younger. And one day there's just a phone call. It is always a shock. It is always a reminder. Because of medical conditions I have faced, I have had plenty of time and reason to contemplate death. It's that thing that's always over our shoulder, whether we know it or not, and seeing how it operates in our life around us and how we respond to it, whether by acts of faith or logic or courage or cowardice. And there's no right way to do it. It's part of the human condition, how we react to death. It's visceral. It's universal. It's a part of the natural cycle that we sometimes hate the most, but at the same time have to face. And it's one of those things that because of its deep inner visceral connection to us as human beings, as people, as organic living entities of the natural world. If you introduce that in fiction, if you introduce that into your story, if you introduce that into your game, not just as you've lost all of your hit points, roll up another character, but as a meaningful moment. You touch that inner visceral feeling. You whisper to that specter over the shoulder, and you might just get a something deep out of that experience. It might also get roller coaster laughs and arms up in the air. People react to it in different ways. I like the sentiment that there are those who believe that death should be faced in peace and dignity with a quiet service surrounded by friends and moments of peace so that people can move on. And those who believe that life should best be lived so that you end it with a barely recognizable corpse screaming into the finish lane on fire, fireworks going off, beer in the air, shouting the hell of a ride. That was great. And neither is correct or incorrect. What do you feel? You have some feeling about it, even if you don't want to think about it or don't want to look at it. There's something in there. when a game master runs a game in such a way, when the players are engaged in such a way as those visceral elements of our existence, love, birth, life, death, when those show up on that table in the middle of those character sheets, covered in dice, you have an ingredient for something that's not just going to be what you're doing tonight or weekends for a couple of months. You have an ingredient for something you're going to be talking about in 10, 20 years. I fully expect that at any memorial service for me, that people who gamed with me are going to show up on the beach because I'm getting fired off the back of a boat in the form of fireworks because I'm going to do one spectacular thing in my life. And that as the sun sets fully, there are going to be stories about games I ran and games I played in and characters I played and me. And that those stories are going to last far longer than I am. And I am very good with that. Well, a little bit morbid, but death was actually in the title of this one, I believe. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have your own experiences of mortality in role-playing games or want to discuss the nature of the beast, if you've got other things you'd like to hear me talk about or subjects you'd like to hear me cover, leave me a comment below. I will love getting your comment. You will love leaving me one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, why not? My channel is awesome. Go ahead, the little subscribe button. Hit the little notification bell too next to it so you're alerted when my videos become available. If you'd like to help out in a more personal way, I invite you to hit me up my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. I run an online game for my patrons. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. We have a lot of fun, and those games contain information that often gets covered here. In the meantime, thank you very much for following me along on this particular ramble. I am Scott Corum. This is what matters to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.